Hi everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, we'll talk about cache deception and how you can spot it and how I was able to spot it in one of the pen tests that I did for a banking application a few years back. So I'll begin with a simple high level diagram of how the things were. So there was an actor, which is the user itself that uses the web application. There is a web application server. Then there is a cache in place, right? So what was happening is the way this caching server was configured is that it should be storing any JPEG files or any CSS or anything that is static in nature. It should be caching it, right, for a X number of period of time. So we'll talk about how we found a cache deception attacks in which we were able to log the profile information of a particular user. Now, as you can see, the profile.html to fetch the profile information of that user, the user had to navigate to profile.html page. Now, as you can see, this is a .html extension, right? Not a JPEG, CSS, or JS file. Now, this won't be stored in the cache. That's quite normal. And the web server would return, it would be forwarded to the web server. The web server would return it again because it's a .html page. It would not be cached and it would be returned to the user. Now, this is the normal flow. Now the vulnerability is the way I tried to do it is I modified profile.html to profile.html.css, and this is how I was able to fetch the profile information of that user, number one, and also get it to cache. The reason it got cached is because it looked at the extension, right? But you might be wondering, how on earth is this possible that if the page is profile.html, how were you able to get it to return the same information using profile.html.css, right? So here you have to understand the concept of delimiters and how different web servers treat delimiters. Now, I think this point is pretty clear that because it was validating the extension and not validating the content type, because of which my profile information got cached, right? And because it got cached, I could just navigate to this endpoint on an incognito window and I would see that information. Because it's a banking application, it's a big thing, right? All right, so why is this an issue? Because generally the way caching server are implemented or configured is that they just want you to see a particular extension, and if that particular extension matches with one of the ones that is allow listed, it would be cached. So this is exactly what happened here, as I have explained before. But why did that happen? This is because of special mapping or delimiters. So generally what happens is, to a caching server, if you type profile.html.css, it doesn't know it, right? If it's stored in the cache, it would fetch it. If it is not, it would send it to the target or the resource server. But the way it is saved or the way it is processed by a web server might differ based on what type of server it is. So some type of servers, what they do is they have different types of delimiters. So for example, a as an ampersand or a dollar sign could mean that this part is completely different. So I could have written here something like this. Depending upon the type of server, it would just consider this and reject this, because it would consider this, let's say, a query parameter, right? Just like this one, right? So this is how delimiters work, and these delimiters are different and vary based on different types of let's say they vary on different types of servers. One other thing that I could have also tried is by navigating to a particular endpoint like this, page is equal to html.css. Now here, as you can see, the page is in itself is the same, but the caching server could think that this in itself is a CSS file, and that's why it would have cached it. So there are different ways in which caching proxy might work, the caching server might work. So let's understand a different technique, which is special mapping. A lot of times, how caching server might be implemented is they would say that okay, you do not have to think about JavaScript, CSS, or HTML files. You just make sure that anything that follows after static, you have to log it or cache it, right? So let's assume that there is a particular endpoint called secret that fetches our API keys, right? So what we can do is, instead of sending a request to slash secret, what we do is we send a request to slash static dot dot slash percentile to f is slash, and we send it to, and for and like followed by secret. Now if normalization is not enabled on the caching server would in itself think of this as one particular endpoint and forward it to the web server. Generally what web server does is, web server would normalize this path. So what would this become? This would become slash secret, right? Because this is dot dot slash. Now because this would become slash secret, the server would return the sensitive data, but which is the API keys. But when it goes through the caching server, as you can see here, the caching server does not know that this was normalized by the server, right? It would think that this in itself is an endpoint, and this endpoint returns API keys. Because it has static in it, it would store it. Now the next time I have to fetch the secret keys without being authenticated, I can just send a request to this particular endpoint, not in a browser but through curl or through burp suite, because our, if we send this through our browser, this would be normalized by the browser itself, and we do not want this because caching servers stored the secrets in this particular endpoint. So I hope this was of some use to you, and you can use this in your day-to-day pen tests.